I was 10, I was in a sledding accident and in the hospital with an obscene amount of internal injuries. And it's kind of surreal being a 10-year-old and wondering if you're gonna die or not, like, every day. And it's not like an instant thing where it's like I'm being held at gunpoint and I'm like either live or die. It's like a continual feeling of, is this the moment or is it not? And it's like sometimes you forget that it's kind of looming over you. Like, am I ever gonna be normal again? Or is today gonna be the last day that I get to see my family or something like that? And I think that's why it's hard to like be alone and not sink into like dark thoughts like that, because to me being by myself physically is like the equation of like a death sentence, because even though I'm not in the hospital like right now or not continually in it anymore, there's still all of that physical damage that I can't pretend didn't happen. But for me, I feel like the worst part is not being able to express how that feeling of like, am I gonna die today? How it affects everything I do, because I still have scar tissue in my airway and I've had numerous surgeries to remove it, but it always grows back. And right now it's only 3/4 of the way covering my airway. Also, the fact that that word only is used in that situation means that I've kind of grown accustomed to not being able to breathe, but I know that at any point it could start growing again, and then I would just have no airway at all. And I don't know how to talk about that in everyday life with people I care about, because how do you just bring something up like that? Like, what are people supposed to say to that? Like, sometimes when you look at somebody, you overestimate the privilege that they had in life. I cannot tell you a single day I've gone where someone hadn't said something about my voice or asked me like what's wrong with me or made a joke at my expense. Like, those are the ones that hurt the most, when they make fun of me and they don't even know me. Especially when it comes from older men, like who are approximately like 30 to 40 years old, and they tell me like, oh, it's okay, you have the ideal voice because now men don't have to listen to you yell and go on, or they don't have to listen to you talk. Like, you would make the ideal wife or girlfriend. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't want to be like this. And just because I'm like this sure as hell does not mean that I'm gonna be subservient. And it's just these little things that you wouldn't assume I go through, but it's just super shitty and it happens every day. So I feel like you can't assume everybody is okay just by looking them in the eye.
This past spring, I had to bring my ex-boyfriend to Title IX and to the UPD at my campus because he was abusive and threatening to hurt himself, because I didn't want to talk to him anymore because he kept dragging me along if it was a relationship or not. And there's just so many other minor, small details of abuse and just being nasty that I couldn't handle it anymore. So for as long as I can remember, I've always had this feeling of sadness or fear over minor things. Like, I couldn't really talk to people that I didn't know well. It took me a long time to actually, like, be able to talk to someone in a restaurant, like to order food. It made me so nervous to do that. And then I'd also have these moments of just such deep sadness and depression where I would be in my bed at night, bawling my eyes out, and I had no idea why, and I didn't want to be on the earth anymore, and I didn't want to feel this anymore, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of just I wanted to hurt either myself or someone else. I just always had this feeling whenever I got really like overwhelmed or super angry or really anxious or really depressed that I just wanted to feel pain, physical pain, not mental or like emotional pain, but like physical pain. And having to go to UPD and go to Title IX forced me to go to counseling. And it was probably the best decision of my life that I went along with it. And I did go to counseling, and I got to talk to someone, and I got to finally understand the thoughts in my head and why I feel this way sometimes, and that I don't have to feel that way, and that I'm not crazy. It's just my brain doesn't function the way it's supposed to, which is fine. I'm starting to understand my mental health. I am starting to take medications. I go to counseling regularly or every few weeks, and it just feels great to finally understand myself and to know that no, I'm not crazy. There is words to it, and that I'm not alone. And I'm just so excited and happy that I finally found myself in a place where I'm getting better, I can help others get better, and I know in the future I'll be able to reach out to others as well.
So, something I think about a lot is death. It's not like I think about it 24/7 or anything, but I think about it a lot if I'm driving. It's really weird because I've only, like when I was little, I've been in car accidents and stuff, and I definitely get like panic attacks with it, but like it's on YouTube they have these car crash videos, and I watch them. I don't know why I watch them, but I do. But when I'm driving, I definitely think about it, and like I could be on the highway and like I'll see cars and I'll think, oh, what if that car just like comes up on the ramp and flips over onto my car or a car in front of me? Or I think like if someone's texting, like they just swerve out of nowhere and then they cause an accident. But I always think about it, like I always just think about dying or like death when I'm driving. And I definitely think about it, like if it's raining, I think about hydroplaning or flipping the car over. Flipping the car over is probably like my biggest fear, or a car flipping onto me, but it's never happened obviously, but I always think about that. I don't know what I do, it's crazy to me, but yeah.
Right before my grandpa died, he had to have surgery because in '96, I was like 3 months old. He had to have open heart surgery, and whenever you do open heart surgery, they basically have to cut you, down your chest. And then when they put everything back together, they use this type of wire, a metal wire. And right before my grandpa died, he was, he was always a skinny guy, and he got so thin because he was so sick and not eating that some of the metal wire actually started to poke through his skin, and they didn't want to get him infected, and they had to remove the wiring. And then he just never really recovered from that. But right before he died, they were making dinner, and they couldn't get it out because my grandmother was in a wheelchair. She had just fractured her spine. And they called the house to see if anybody could go over and take the dinner out. So I went over and I took it out. And then the next day he was dead. So anyway, after my grandpa died, it was just my granny. It was just her, alone in the house. I mean, she'd never been alone for 60 years. They were together for 65 years, almost 70 years actually. And it took a while to get into the pace of things, but then it kind of just became like, we got into a routine. If she had to go to the dentist or go to the doctor or get out of the house, it would be me or my brother and my dad. And we would go and we would get her down the stairs in the wheelchair. And it was things that at the time was kind of like, this is like such a pain in the ass. Like it sucked, honestly. Like it wasn't fun going over there to help her. Like, but after a while, it just became kind of like, okay, it's just that's what I'm doing today. In the beginning, it was just it was hard because it was like I have so much I want to do, and I have to basically put my life on hold so that I can go over there when she needs tea or anything else. She would call me all the time. I mean, like, I would get 40 calls a day. And you know what? Honestly, looking back, I laugh because it was some of the funniest things that she would call for. She would call for, she called me about a squirrel being in her yard. Actually in the middle of math class. My third time taking this math class because I failed it 2 other times. For absences. Absences, and I missed tests because the people needed to be home with her. And my dad was pissed. He was like, if you don't pass this one, you're paying for the rest of college yourself. And she called me in the middle of the first day. And she called me and I answered the phone and I said, yeah, what's up, Granny? And I didn't even leave class. I was just still in the class. I was like, fuck it. If you have a problem with me answering this phone call, I'm going to leave anyway. But I need to, I'm answering, I'm not making her wait. So if I didn't answer the phone within 3 rings, she would hang up and then call again because she knew I would answer the second I saw it. Or she would leave a voicemail. If it was like in a dire emergency, she would leave a voicemail. But yeah, she called me and I thought that she was like, she overdosed on her prescriptions. Because she called me and all I heard was, Sean, there's a really fat squirrel sunbathing in my yard. And I was like, what the fuck? What is she taking? I'm like, did she accidentally take her Percocet instead of like her multivitamin or something? Like, why is she hallucinating like that? What the hell's going on? So by the 3rd phone call, I finally was just like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm leaving the class. She obviously wants me home to look at something, so I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna tell the teacher I'm sick. I gotta take a shit. I gotta do something, but I'm gonna leave. So I just told the professor, I was like, hey, look, I gotta go. I got an emergency with my grandma, and he was like, okay, go ahead. So I went home and I went to her house, and she goes, I'm glad you're here, but the fat squirrel is gone. And I was like, what? All right. Okay, yeah, the fat squirrel is gone. Okay, do you want me to make you tea? Do you want cookies? Like, do you want me to do something else? Like, do you need icy hot on your shoulders? Like, do you need your feet up? Do you need anything while I'm here? And, you know, I just did the normal stuff. I got her cookies and tea, and I got her puzzles, and I got everything she wanted. And then I went home, and then 2 days later, going up her stairs, in her ivy, what do you see? A fucking gopher. Laying on its back and dancing in the weeds. Like, I'm not even kidding. Just laying on its back and, like, sunbathing. And it looked like a fat squirrel. I thought she was making it up. I couldn't even tell my dad. Because if I told my dad that it actually was a fat squirrel dancing on Granny's lawn, he would think I was taking her meds. I remember one time she called me at midnight to come over because she wanted me to see how fat the girl on Wheel of Fortune was. At midnight. She was up at midnight watching Wheel of Fortune, and I was sound asleep, and she called me and said, Sean, are you busy? And I was just, me being sarcastic, no, okay, and I was just sleeping. She goes, okay, good. Can you come over real quick? I want you to see how fat this girl is. I'm like, okay. I went over. My dad was just going up to bed. He goes, where are you going? I got Granny called. Well, what does she need? I said, I'm wrong. I said, no, she just wants me to go look at the TV. And he was like, oh, God, all right.
My mom wasn't feeling good. She had like stomach pains, and we didn't think much of it. We took her to the hospital, and she got checkups, and the doctor said, yeah, it's cancer, and it's really bad. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and it was like stage 3 or 4. They didn't really give us the number. When my mom came home and told me that, I pretty much cried in my bed because I didn't know what to think. During the summer, she was able to walk and eat. You know, she helped me get ready for college. She was there with me during move-in day. Being in college was hard because she was home dealing with cancer and I was here. I never really talked about my mom being sick to people. If I even mentioned it a little bit, I would get emotional. After work, I was on the bus and I was checking my phone, and my mom sent me a long text about how the doctor said that the chemotherapies haven't been doing anything and her cancer it grew. And when I read that message, I was obviously heartbroken. I was happy that my break was coming up soon, so I was able to see her. It was one day she was not fine, but she was talking, you know. And then the next day she wasn't talking. She wasn't communicating in any way. Thursday was the day that I came home for spring break, and I remember going on a bus and my dad called me, like, telling me, like, how bad she got, because I mean, I really didn't know. I was, like, in college. I didn't know what she was like. I walked into the room and she was like not herself at all. And then there was like a huge snowstorm the next day, so we couldn't visit her. The next day after that, my sister, my dad, and I all went to visit her. And that was like the first time that the family was, you know, all together in the hospital. The next day, we were gonna visit in like the afternoon after eating lunch. And then my dad got home and he said that he got a phone call from the hospital. He said, like, she passed away. I'm adopted, so my parents are a lot older than me. Like, I knew that they weren't going to be in my life as long as other people's parents. I didn't expect my mom to be gone when I was, 18. I know there are people who have lost their mom or like a parent at like such a younger age. There's people who don't even know what it's like to have parents, and I don't want to seem like ungrateful, but like I don't think we should be comparing griefs. Like people always being like, yeah, there's kids in Africa starving, but like that's not a way to help someone when they're going through things.
You good?
That was very all over the place, but it's fine.
Cool.
There's times when I like lost my train of thought or it didn't make sense, but it's fine.
Gotta go find Brittany. I'm done.
Okay.
I was just rambling. I don't even know if half of it makes sense.
That's
but-
fine.
Britt, I'm done.